crumbs. Okay, I may as well start. If everybody can hear me, give me some thumbs. And next time I do this, I'm going to mark it just for a closed group because I can see half my family joining, but hey, there you go. Apologies for maybe some poor sound quality. I need to find a better Wi-Fi connection. I'm streaming this over my phone. So I'm going to speak slowly. If there's any problems, just send me a message and I'll try again. So start off by introducing myself. I'm Simon Telfer. You've probably guessed that now. You probably see me talking a lot on Telegram and Slack. I think that's something that I enjoy doing, telling people about our project and the technology. I think you can confidently say I'm the storyteller in the team. I think I should also say how I ended up working with you guys and being part of this project. I think like a lot of people, been looking at blockchain. I don't like calling it crypto, but looking at blockchain and how a distributed trustless ledger can be used to change a lot of things in our communities and the societies and economies. And after going through maybe 2 years of what we can only often call a sort of almost gambling on crypto, I started myself looking for something interesting. A project that had some interesting ambition and take things to the next level. As you can tell, I'm probably quite a lot older than most of you, but I've been through the internet revolutions, cloud, streaming media, and there comes a point with a transformational technology where people need to find things to do with it so that we increase the adoption, and then we can tackle all the regulatory problems. You know, we find some silver bullet applications for it. And myself and a group of friends who you've probably seen around Dave Marrow, you're out there as well. We decided that we wanted to look for something a little bit more interesting, something a little bit less speculative, and put something back in. And as many of you probably know, there are groups of us in your project who've been running large IT programs and been involved with this kind of thing for quite some time. And I stumbled across your project in July and really got involved. It's got a lot of potential. It's a great technology stack, and at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And I got talking to Amanda and Arturo and Arjun and decided it would be great to get involved and see how we can help, see how we can shape it. You've chosen an extraordinary technology stack here. And we'll go into that in a little bit. And I think it honestly is quite unique. We are the only blockchain platform out there that's not funded by NICA, by venture capitalists. This is truly a voluntary program. And because of that, it's behaving very differently. We've got different targets and we've got an entirely different philosophy from the outset. And I think that's very important. I think it's very important for a number of reasons. Firstly, because it pushes the edge of what we want to do as a community, and quite often a community of more mature and experienced professionals. But it also, I think, gives us something as a group where we can maybe push the edges of blockchain a bit more away from what its reputation is growing at. And you know, we talk a lot about self-regulation and anti-money laundering and know your customer. And with the technology stack that we've chosen, I think that we can certainly contribute to that global conversation and move blockchain to a place where we all want it to be. So that's my story. I liked what I saw. It is a hobby, as you can see from where I am. The day job. My day job starts at 6 a.m. with walking the dog and being with the family through to usually 9 or 10 o'clock at night when I get home, and spend a couple of hours talking at you guys on Telegram and Slack. And I guess that's really what started me off with this. It's a huge community, and it's a global community. And it's not just a group of people, you know, looking for the next Lamborghini. It's a group of people who understand what blockchain can do, and are looking for an outlet for that. And like I said, that's what introduced me to the whole thing. Now, I'm just going to keep talking until somebody interrupts here. It's something you're familiar with me doing. But I think one of the models that I've seen, and over the last 2 years looking at blockchain, is there's been a huge advancement. And the huge advancement is moving from simple value transfer, like Bitcoin Core with the Bitcoin type projects, to smart contracts and things which have an entirely different way of operating, all the way up to the distributed apps that we see at the moment, which can enable everything from medical records online through to voting and through to all kinds of clever things you're going to be seeing coming out of us over the next year or two. And what excited me about this community was there's a whole group of people here who want to learn and to understand, and are willing to open their minds a bit. I think we've all program groups where their obsession with what's the price going to be tomorrow is a little bit overwhelming at times. But I think here we've got a global group of people who've got a slightly different philosophy, a slightly different feeling, and want to genuinely get involved and make things a little bit better in the world, and maybe lift the reputation of blockchain somewhat. And I guess this takes me to our next point, which is what we are building, and the thing I think that people are learning at the moment. The thing that struck me second about this whole program is the fact that it's open source. We've avoided very much talking about the projects that we're related to, but I mentioned it before on the forums. There are three bits of technology that we've got here. There's the Bitcoin piece in the middle, which is our network and our blockchain. We've got a clever piece of scripting which ties together the top layer of the sandwich, which is Ethereum. All these things are open source. The glue in the middle, as everybody knows, is a piece of glue written by the team in Qtum. And their offering to the world in open source is that glue, and the ability for us to take the best of the core Bitcoin work, which is another great bit of open source, along with Vitalik's fabulous Ethereum C++ library, and glue it all together into something which I think will move everyone on from a technology obsession into more of a community structure where we can work with other blockchains, with atomic swaps, and with all kinds of clever and funky things, but start to lift some of the distributed apps that have been built for Ethereum, which we've been talking about over the past couple of days, and build some really interesting business applications. I think everybody remembers last year when SIA and Storage and lots of the mesh compute applications came out. We all said, what on earth is this? How can we suddenly be challenging some of the larger cloud computes, not just for storage, but for compute capacity? But the simple fact of the matter is that's where the technology's moved to now. And the stack that we're implementing gives us the ability to open up that world. It also gives us compatibility with the other large platforms out there, Neos, the Qtums. I don't know enough about Waves yet, but we all run dApps, we all run smart contracts, we run it all with Solidity, and that will change things quite a lot. We've been talking online the last couple of days about some of the dApps that are out there and the things that we can build, and I think I've seen a number of lights come on in the community, people understanding what is there and what we can do. And I guess that brings me on to our point, which is what is different about our project. I like to think we are a little bit more grown up and probably quite a lot less cool than the hipsters and folks sitting in there. And I joke about this, sitting in the warehouse apartments across the world, and building things, well, we are all very experienced. We've got a very large active community right across the globe, everywhere from Ghana to Brazil. And looking through our Facebook hits, we've got people in Lesotho, people in Suriname, people from all over the world coming on and looking at what we're doing. And I believe one of the reasons for that is something that you'll be seeing over the next couple of weeks, which is our e-learning platform. We very much believe that this great open source technology and great open source knowledge needs to be pushed out with skills as well. And one of the ways we're going to be addressing that will be through our e-learning platforms and pushing out technology skills to people who want to understand how this stuff works. And hopefully that's going to help enable communities to, and I can't remember the exact words I used, but take better control of their economic situations and use blockchain to maybe start to tackle some of the issues that they have in their societies and their communities. A couple of weeks ago when we kicked off the original website, we talked about curating some of these solutions centrally. We've got some great stuff going on in Colombia, in Brazil, and South America, and there's no reason why, once these solutions aren't built and constructed, we can't share them with our friends across the world. And that's not just the technology, but the way we managed the projects, the way we did the business change, the way we took people through making it happen. And that's one of our ambitions as well, is to be slightly more inclusive with technology. We can't promise we're going to be massively successful doing that, but what we can promise is we're going to wear ourselves out trying, and I think that's a very important principle. Another thing that I think makes us different is that once we do get up and going, we're going to be coming to market with a number of business dApps, distributed applications, and one of them being something that you'll have seen on the HTMLbusiness.com site to support the freelancer market. That's going to be something, again, that evolves over time as we switch on various bits of functionality and features of the blockchain. And I guess that takes me on to the next hint, which is that as we do progress within the open source project that we're working on, features will be landing. You will see them in the Bitcoin Core roadmap. You'll see them in the Qtum roadmap, and you'll see them in our roadmap as well. They're all going to be shared, and all of those projects and the people who use those libraries will be able to pick those out. So when we've been talking about our swap from the old blockchain to the new blockchain, clearly we're pedaling very hard in the background, but what we don't want to do, and what we haven't done, is introduced until recently the fact that we are part of a much larger open source movement. We as a group thoroughly believe that open source is the way forward. It's given us the opportunity to innovate beyond what anybody has considered possible for blockchain over the past years. And if you look at the large, strong and innovative projects, Bitcoin itself, arguably they haven't managed to implement their code yet, but certainly Ethereum and now Qtum as well. These are non-proprietary solutions, and open source gives us the ability to build on the last great thing and innovate at a pace which is quite unusual, certainly in our industry, where if you just look at the resource it's taken Qtum to build their scripting layer as their open source contribution to blockchain, I think it's 60,000 hours that they've spent. I hate to think how much time has gone into the Ethereum code with people right across the world, and Bitcoin has been developed almost continuously by a very large group of people for the past 5 years, in fact 7 years. So open source is our heritage. It's certainly our way forward. And here in our projects in HTMLCOIN, we want to be part of that story as well, which brings me on to the next point that I want to remind us of. At the beginning of this journey back in July, we knew we'd got some winning technology. We knew we had a huge global community and a really great group of people involved. We also decided that what we were going to do was going to be expensive. What we weren't quite prepared for was the level of interest, not as well. The market is very ready for a different shaped project, maybe one with a bit more of a social conscience, and maybe one that's wanting to move blockchain on from the reputation that it seems to have picked up recently. And we have taken a decision that we will be undertaking a pre-mine. We will be publishing the size and the scale of the pre-mine. It's not going to be anything of the scale of some of the other projects that you see. This isn't us doing what a lot of people do. This is us looking for a way to fund the roadmap for the next 5 years. And in fact, I don't think I know of any open source or any other blockchain project that has published a 5-year roadmap with both features and business projects committed. And we will be using that pre-mine to set up the funds to build that over the next couple of years. I think what is interesting, though, is now that we've done the mathematics, we realize that some of those projects are going to bring more value sooner. So expect to see some reprioritization of the roadmap over the next couple of months, because what we want to do is make it self-funding for you guys, so everybody can see things arrive. And we can also start to open up the platform a bit and get the governance controls in place to allow us to bring other projects on. We're going to be obviously looking at APIs, gateways into other blockchains, and we want to be part of that global conversation to make blockchain not just a vertical industry, but a horizontal industry as well. Many of you were part of the masternode conversation we had, and that still is being looked at. But we need to work out a way of making that economic within the network, simply because masternodes are usually things that Bitcoin-based projects that don't have a Lightning network undertake, because it speeds up transaction times and makes things a lot quicker. As you were aware, we're going live with the post-SegWit version of Bitcoin Core, which means we can turn on Lightning pretty much from the outset of what we're doing, which makes the whole masternode story a little bit different. It's not made it go away, but what it's made it as step back and think about is, what do we use to fund that activity? Because there is no doubt it strengthens the network, and there's no doubt there's a damn good reason for it. But we just need to step back and answer that question. How does the network fund a masternode setup? The reason we haven't answered that is because we want to do this one step at a time. We are talking to a number of partners around the globe who'd like to use our blockchain for their projects, in the same way that Ethereum, however bloated it has become, is the host to a whole raft of interesting projects, from Augur to storage, like I mentioned before, and some really interesting technologies. We are talking to projects that we think have merit, meet our philosophical objectives with HTMLCOIN, and we need to make sure that we build a network which supports their needs and exactly what they're doing and the geographies that they're in. Which I guess takes me to the next point that we've covered a couple of times, and I want to just reinforce, and that's the layers of this project. We talk about it being a hybrid, the best of all worlds. But if you imagine us as a project, we have 3 layers. Layer 1 is where we are at the moment, and that is establishing our core blockchain and our core I call it a coin. I don't like the word coin myself. But establishing our core blockchain with our smart contract layer, our distributed apps, and the life cycle that goes around all of that. We will be, over the next couple of months, rolling out a whole sequence of wallets and capabilities for that. We'll also be rolling out capabilities to support multiple tokens on our chain. So where you see the MyEther wallet type functionality, we'll be building similar stuff. So we create something that multiple different projects and tokens and distributed apps can start to use. This is one of the reasons why we're thinking about how we do masternodes, because it's more than just what we want. What we're building here is not just the train, but the new railroad as well. And we want to be sure that that railroad is secure and strong and global for a number of other projects to come on and adopt. Because as we know at the moment, the Ethereum blockchain is quite bloated and there's plenty of space in the market to grow. They're going through their hard fork at the end of September, maybe early October, and that's all about them strengthening their blockchain to reduce some of the capacity problems that they have at the moment. So that takes me on to my next point, which is what's HTMLbusiness.com. I guess in many ways this is us showing off a bit what the platform is capable of. What we're not going to do is create a speculative marketplace where we just push some technology out there and ask people to speculate on it, because that's just our style. What we're building on HTMLbusiness.com are a number of different business, community and social platforms, which we hope will move people's sort of thoughts on from what blockchain can currently do. We've discussed this a lot, and having it with a slightly separate identity allows people to separate it from the core platform, and it also gives some of our project partners and external companies a bit of a view of what we are capable of. We haven't discussed this much in the forums, and Arjen and team have been working sort of feverishly, fed on pizzas and Pepsi Cola for the past couple of months. You've seen the countdown timer, and unlike the last countdown timer, I don't think this one's going to be a disappointment. I think we're going to see something interesting. Clearly, there's going to be no integration to the blockchain yet, but these dApps and these business platforms that are going to be surrounding HTMLCOIN are going to be quite interesting, and hopefully they'll be relevant to you and your daily lives, whether you engage with it through training opportunities, through our ambassador network, or if you become part of the beta testing for the freelancing when we get that up and going. I think the third part of the whole thing that I'd like to introduce is the external projects. You've seen our Brazilian team pop up on some of the social networks with some of their amazing ideas around health, and they're really quite exciting projects, and I'd say they're even groundbreaking. Same in Colombia, some really brave social projects which I think provide a model that can be used in different places around the world, and we're really very proud that they've chosen to work with us on this, and they're willing to let us help them with that. What is interesting is that all of these projects have elements of startup, crowdfunding, and eventual sort of live production, and we can do all of that. And there are a number of opportunities in there that those projects can use HTMLCOIN for, and it's not just that they can use our blockchain. They can flip to Qtum if they need to. They can flip to Ethereum. We're not the project that's going to grab and hog any limelight here. We think that we're at a cusp with blockchain globally at the moment, and we just need to find a way out of it by showing them what we're capable of. I guess that sort of brings me again back round to the philosophical point of the whole thing. We've all been through a cycle of sort of crying, this is going to be massively successful, and to wondering how we're going to get through it. But we've seen a whole interesting range of communities and groups. Arturo's been talking to an amazing team in Vietnam recently. We've been contacted by groups all over the world, both representing communities and investor groups and businesses. We are now starting to talk to other blockchain groups as well about what the art of the possible might be. And I think what we are hoping to stand for as things move on is some change in the industry and some improvement. As well, you may have met or spoken to online Cole. Cole is our counsel. He's very experienced with blockchain and the law around it. You'll have seen us preaching at you about not speculating on what things are worth. For us, it's all about establishing trust and a network of exchange. We don't quite frankly mind what things are worth. It's all about adoption and getting this out there and on everybody's phones and everybody's laptops. And that's, I guess, the final point where I want to end this bit. There are a number of videos out there on YouTube which show how both dApps and smart contracts can work on mobile devices as well. We are one of those projects that can do that. I think that's going to be quite revolutionary, moving to a mobile platform, both for areas of the world that it's just not quite so practical to have laptops and desktops and big devices everywhere, and for enterprise and as well. It's certainly going to be quite bumpy for us, so you'll have to excuse us and the core team for not maybe working as fast as we want us to. But the fact of the matter is we're all volunteers. We're still volunteers, and we're going to remain as volunteers. We don't have the cool warehouses in Manhattan and Moscow and London. We have families and we have football games to go to and kids to look after like everybody else here. But that's what makes us different. I think over the next couple of weeks, we'll hold another couple of these sessions. But what we would like is some feedback on what you hear here and what you hear on Telegram. Feedback is everything for us. People keep coming to us and asking us, are you going to do this? What's the pre-mine going to look like? How are you going to fund things going forward? We've come back out and said, we're going to change. You were right. We've listened. And we want to keep that going as well. Nobody's yet asked when swap. But as far as the whole swap process is concerned, I've just been speaking to Peter Bushnell, our and he is very close to, if not now, creating the Genesis block. Things are compiled, and we're going through a very rigorous testing process at the moment. What we don't want to be doing is taking any risks with quality of what we're building. And for that reason, we are going to hold back on going live until after the larger projects have gone with the elements of the code base that we're using. So we're going to be waiting for a little bit after QTUM. If you are enough of a geek to spend your days and nights on GitHub, I am, unfortunately, you'll know that Peter and our dev team are contributing to that project and debugging quite a lot of it at the moment. It's looking very stable. It's looking very positive. No one's found any particular problems in there, and the community working very well. Like I said, Peter is doing the Genesis block at the moment. So the next stage of that, now that he's got the algorithms wrapped around the blockchain, are building up the actual pre-mine itself, which is something that we will discuss and share with you over the next couple of weeks once we bottom that out. But the Bitcoin Core element and the Ethereum elements are looking good. But we will be progressing to a swap with all of the features that we need to go live sometime during, the couple of days before the 16th of October. We've published the 16th as our go live date. It will be there or before. And there's going to be some very long weekends of pizza and tired people before we get there. So I think that's probably me wound up having answered all of the questions that people posed to me over the past couple of days. Like I said, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like to ask you to bear with us. Remember, everybody who's contributing to this has got families. We've got things to do. We've got lives outside of this project as well. But that said, it's a pleasure being part of it. It's one of the most polite communities I've seen, and that's saying a lot. But also one of the most active communities. And if you remember 2 nights ago, somebody popped on to our Telegram service and said, wow, this is the biggest and most active community I have seen on Telegram, which was very scary. So that's about me wound up for now. Like I said, we listen. We're the project that aren't arrogant enough to think we know all the answers. We know some of them, but we're very transparent. So please ask any questions about where we are and what we're doing and why we're doing things. If you have any ideas or want to contribute, we're very interested in that as well, because this is going to be not just an open source project and program, but as well. We want to make this really rather interesting and quite exciting. And that's me done for now. So thank you very much. If anybody's got any questions they want to blat across the screen, I'm paying attention now. But if not, then I shall wind this up and probably speak to a lot of you later tonight. Okay, thank you from the team. Let's move forward to the 16th of October and hope one of these sessions in the interview.